My name is Tran. I was born about an hour and a half northwest of Sai Gon, Vietnam, and raised in the cattle country of southwestern Kansas, Garden City, Kansas. I am a preacher's kid and the son of butchers. I like to consider myself equal parts sea salt and wheat fields. I'm definitely someone who grew up in the middle. In the middle of my Vietnamese heritage, and in the middle of being kind of an othered American, but I self-identify as Vietnamese American. My family came here with the clothes on our backs and $20 that a missionary gave to us, and we built from there. And so, as far as early childhood goes, my parents did the absolute best they could with what they had. They both worked in meatpacking plants in Holcomb, Kansas. At the time, it was Iowa Beef Packing. Later, it was bought out by Tyson. But my parents worked hard in the meatpacking plant so that I might not know that we were impoverished. But despite their best efforts, kids are insightful, even if they can't quite intellectualize what their circumstances are. Kids are insightful, and precocious baby V was insightful as well. And just the trauma of the refugee experience and the inherited PTSD of the Vietnam War, it was the wallpaper of my childhood, even though my folks worked really, really hard to shield me from that and not talk about the bad times, and speak in aspirational terms of you're here, achieve, you can do it, we love you, et cetera, et cetera. It's baked in, right? You can't just wave a magic wand and wish it away. And so there were a lot of lonely times. I mean, I remember growing up as a latchkey kid. There were times where mom and dad would be stuck working at the plant and my older sister was at school. And so I was just at home by myself, and the escape from Vietnam was so close that there was very, very much specific safety procedures, like you can watch TV, but with the sound off. Do not answer the phone, do not answer the door, et cetera, until your sister comes home, So I did that. And Kid V remembers that, and flash forward decades later, when I fell into the performing arts and being an actor and being a musician, I fooled myself into thinking that I was an extrovert, right? That here I am on stage and I'm big and performative and I can command a room. But inside me, I realized, oh man, I'm still that kid. I'm that introverted kid who read alone, who was home alone, who didn't have a common shared vocabulary with his refugee parents, as they were learning English, and I grew up simultaneously learning Vietnamese and English, but my Vietnamese was terrible. So they would speak to me in Vietnamese and I would respond in English, and that's so common with intergenerational refugee families. But yeah, so that's a little bit of the tapestry of my childhood. On the first night I met you, I was dancing with every girl. I wrote a folk musical, autobiographical folk musical called The Butcher's Son, about my family's escape from Vietnam and our capture by the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia and our resettlement in southwestern Kansas. And in doing so, I had to articulate the voice of my father, the voice of my mother, the voice of my sister, the voice of myself. And my main goal there was to illuminate the hidden stories that we all have, that beg for empathy from others. But particularly with Vietnam War refugees, and refugees of any kind, it's like the Vietnam War in America has always been framed by the American experience. It's one of the greatest American tragedies, et cetera, et cetera. And every time that Vietnamese people are referenced, we're referenced in vague black and white photos of atrocities and tragedy. We're referenced as textbook statistics, et cetera, et cetera. And growing up and watching, people talk down to my parents because of their broken English, while not knowing where they came from or what it took to get us here, I felt a very, very primal calling to be their voice, to take that broken English and somehow attempt to make it beautiful, beautiful to the ears, because my dad was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Like, he was the heir to a real estate empire in Southeastern Asia, and my mother was an orphan and born with nothing, and they fell in love, just like an old classic Broadway musical, right? Like this meet cute, rich boy, beggar girl, fall in love. But they fell in love in the middle of the Vietnam War, and so to see my father, who was highly private school educated, who had a fortune waiting for him, fall in love with this beggar girl against his family's wishes, lose everything, come to America, start over, work in a meatpacking plant where his supervisors or people at the grocery store, they don't know his history. They don't know how much sacrifice or humility he demonstrated by doing what he did, to make sure that I could have a fighting chance to choose my path in life, and so writing that story and articulating that story for them, I wanted audiences to walk away with a sense of, oh my God, that's my mother. That's my sister who always looked out for me and protected me. That's my father who sacrificed for me. And it could be the hook. The hook was Vietnam War escape story, folk musical. But my hidden agenda was I wanted you to walk away seeing, that's my mom, that's my dad, that's my brother, that's my sister. Writing The Butcher's Son illuminated to me how much armor I had inherited, and it's like I shared with you in the workshop, some of that armor was inherited from my mother, who needed that armor to survive the escape, to survive that journey. I shared a story about how as a kid, I wasn't allowed to go trick-or-treating, and, mom's like, you can't go out there and trick-or-treat, because you'll die, you'll get kidnapped or you'll get killed, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, how unreasonable. And as a kid, I'm just like, that is parent problems, right? Hashtag parent problems. But then as an adult, I can look back and I can see that my mother, at an age younger than I am today, had to go through extraordinary circumstances. And we were 1 mile away from the Red Cross camp, and on the border of Cambodia and Thailand. And so freedom was within sight, like our family could see the World Red Cross flag. And my mom wanted to celebrate. And she said, okay, I'm going to treat the kiddos to ice cream. My baby boy and my kid daughter, we're going to drop by the nearest village, and I'm going to treat them to ice cream because we made it, right? And she went into that Cambodian village, and she asked a villager, hey, do you know where I can get some ice cream for my kids? And the villager said, yeah, I know where you can get some ice cream. And she turned us into the Khmer Rouge. And so we were imprisoned by the Khmer Rouge because my mom wanted to treat us to ice cream, you know? So when we're in America and we have safety, and that safety was so hard earned, and she says, no, you can't go trick-or-treating. Kid V doesn't know the context, you know, and Kid V doesn't understand where that armor came from, right? She was doing the best that she could. And she had reasons to have that armor. But now as an adult, and in the work that I try to do in spreading empathy, I can't try to create work that spreads empathy if I'm armored up, you know? And that's what I try to inject into my work, you know, into The Butcher's Son, into my songwriting, is try to examine what is preventing reconciliation? What is preventing latitude? What is the armor in this situation? And that's the song cycle that I've been sitting on for a while now, that's unreleased, called Latitude. And it's a song cycle that is based very specifically, each song is about a location and reconciliation. And that can either be reconciliation with a romantic partner, or it could be reconciliation with yourself, your past regret, mistakes made, so that healing might be able to begin. Something that I've had to really, really work hard on is, in a society, and in particular an industry, and I've got my toes in several industries, music, theater, etc., self-employment, running your own business, environments of extreme scarcity, where resources are hard to come by. That already ramps up the amount of oxygen we need to survive, you know? And so the industries tell you, you gotta hustle, you gotta grind. And you know, I've always been a grinder and an overachiever. That's part of also the Asian American stereotype, model minority, legacy burden, you know, monolithic pressure that I had carried as well. And that was, you know, a 10-ton weight. I self-produced it in Kansas City. We toured it to the meatpacking and refugee towns and university towns of Kansas. So we brought there. Yeah. So after we produced it in Kansas City, word was trickling back from my adopted hometown of Garden City. And some folks were like saying, oh my God, he's telling his story. He's telling our story, our refugee story. Incredible. Yeah. And I thought to myself, you know, they're not going to come to Kansas City to see it. They're not going to Chicago or New York or wherever the future of this show is. Let's take it to them. And so we applied for some grants and some funding, and we were able to make that happen. We had a small little tour. I think we hit five or six cities, and we took it to those towns, and we made it free for anyone who was a refugee or a Vietnam War vet, Vietnamese or American, and we just tried to share that story. And then we took it to the Chicago Musical Theater Festival, produced by _ Theater Company, and made a splash there. It was nominated for 8 awards, and we won Most Promising Musical and Best Leading Actor. So, and that's part of the reason why I want it to get produced by one of the union houses in the country, is because they'll be able to pour more resources into it. Because each time that I self-produce it, it's tens of thousands of dollars, you know? It's tens of thousands of dollars. I pay every artisan who contributes their talents to it, you know? And that's one of my core values, you know? So it's, you know, if the money that I make as a self-employed performer or whatever, I'm reinvesting that into these works. And so it's a lot. It's a lot. So the greater distribution of that work will come if someone else out there, falls in love with it and can add a few zeros to that budget to help us do it right, do it even more right, but yeah, if you're listening now and you're interested, go to my YouTube channel, at Tran Music, VITRAN Music, and there are a few clips of live performances of The Butcher Son in its various iterations. Right now, I'm very much living in a kind of a folk Americana world. Tran Band's full-length record, American Heroine, was kind of symphonic rock and pop. A lot of layers there, some tremendous musicians I had the pleasure of working with and who contributed their talents. But on that record, we had our core five-piece, me on acoustic, had a lead guitarist, female co-vocalist, drums, bass. So your standard rock setup. But we also added a string section. We added piano and organ. We added trumpet, wow. So got to play around with some symphonic sounds. And you can listen to that on any major streaming platform or on my YouTube channel. It's available there as well. But with Latitude, I was already sitting on the Latitude song cycle, some of those songs, when we recorded American Heroine. And then right after we released American Heroine, theater work started to pick up. And so again, that environment of scarcity, you got to go with the hot hand. And so I kind of went along to pursue those theatrical opportunities. And then I went on to write The Butcher Son, and then I went on to open up the Buffalo Room performance event space with my wife. And so those songs for Latitude kind of got shelved, and they've been patiently waiting. And at the beginning of 2020, I applied for and received the Charlotte Street Foundation Generative Performing Artist Award, and with that, some seed money to create some future work. And so with those resources, I planned on doing a final promotional push for The Butcher Son, having all of those coffee meetings, or maybe flying out to meet some of these people in person and be like, hey, is this a relationship that we can further advance? Is this a play that or a musical that you're really interested in? I was going to start the final writing and recording process for Latitude and all of those things. And the pandemic hit, and the venue, Buffalo Room, our venue, was shuttered. And live performance dried up. And I had to grieve that, the artist in me said, oh, finally, we have this chunk of resources. We can finally do these new works that we've been waiting to do. And instead it turned into survival money. It turned into survival money. And I had to really sit down and grieve that, rage about it, because Artist V was like, you promised us, mm-hmm. You promised me we'd be able to record this stuff. You promised me we would send these stories out into the world. And then I had to sit in that grief with that part of myself. And then, in those conversations I had with myself, I was able to say, can it be for us? The theme of the album is latitude. Can that latitude be for us? We're so tired. We've been grinding for so long in so many different industries, maybe those funds came at the right time so that we can survive, so we can survive, so that those songs can survive us, you know? It's going to be tough, and I'm going to be quite honest. We haven't quite decided what our protocols and procedures will be, because circumstances outside of our control continue to change, you know, and that was something that I had to do for my mental health, was like, you know, I kept on part of our team immediately after the shutdown happened. And we made a playbook, you know, it's like, okay, if we're going to reopen in May, you know, this is our playbook. And then circumstances changed, you know, it's like, okay, well, we got to throw away that playbook, and we got to make another playbook. And then we got to throw away that playbook, and we got to make another playbook. And as a tiny little mom and pop, you know, it just didn't make financial sense for us to continue to beat our heads against the wall until there's clarity. There's clarity from the circumstances that are outside of our control, then we can be like, okay, these can be the procedures. We can do our good faith best to ensure the safety of ourselves, of our staff, of our artists and producers, of the patrons, you know. And so we're continuing to hibernate until there's clarity in those factors. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And I know that a lot of my brethren in venue management are hurting. And everybody's got to do what's right for them. I hold empathy and space for that. I just miss everybody. I miss everybody a lot. And I can't wait. But we're sharp. We're creative. We'll find a way. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's hope. We'll pivot. I'm trying to maintain a balance between the consulting work that continues to pay the bills, because I do a lot of creative consulting for businesses if they need something project managed or produced or whatever. You know, I had the great pleasure of helping an organization pivot their leadership convention from in place to virtual, you know, and put together a broadcast team for that, you know, and coaching and facilitating workshops and things like that. That's been a nice way to have a little bit of a revenue stream virtually and safely. I stopped live streaming because like I kind of said to you before, like the artist in me was grieving these circumstances, right? And as much as I love to like get on there and play some fun covers, et cetera, you know, once I knew that our Buffalo Room staff was safe, you know, my internal voice was like, can we please stop? We're so tired. This is weird to us, you know, because it felt like you know the term uncanny valley from like early CGI, where it's like it's almost human looking but it's not quite. That's kind of how I felt live streaming, you know, where it was just like, oh my god, this is us doing our thing, but it isn't. Some of our colleagues are doing it really well, you know, and they're right at home with it, but we're just like, oh, you know. And I was able to help others, you know, and coach others on doing it, but there were too many parts of my brain that were freaking out about it, because there was the perfectionist producer of like, you know what, you really need to upgrade this gear and this gear and this gear if we're going to do it right. We're, you know, we have professional standards, you know, and, you know, there's like the human being of me being like, with what money, with what resources, you know, we got to pay the mortgage and all these other things. And then, you know, the artist in me, the performer in me is like, dude, I just want to play, but not like this. This is weird, you know? And also, I had to come to grips with that and be like, okay, this is not for us for now. For now, let's take a breather, But now it was so much fun. It was so much fun last night to get back into live streaming, and I've got a few more scheduled. And honestly, I can give myself the self-compassion that I give to others, because when I coach others, I'm just like, hey, what do you got lying around? Okay, and here's a goal for next steps. Here's a camera that you can buy that's within your price point. Here's a mic or a dongle that you can get to improve your setup in the immediate short term. I can do that for others, but I can't do that for myself, right? Because I've got that unhealthy perfectionist in me who is like, no, we have to have the best setup right now. And it's like, no, we don't. No, we don't. I remember part of my self-care was getting back into some nostalgic video games that I loved as a kid, because that's a happy place, right? And some of my friends were like, oh my God, are you going to live stream that? Are you going to live stream your gameplay? Because that's the thing, are you going to be on Twitch, live streaming your gameplay? And I said, no, because I just want to play, man. I just want to have a hobby that is, because I know me. Mm-hmm. If I say to you, I'm going to live stream my gameplay, then the producer in me is going to be like, okay, we need this camera and we need this setup. We need this interface to get it just right. And then we're going to build a Twitch channel, and we're going to commit 6 months to growing that channel. And it'll then become what? Not play, a job. It'll become another
happy you have to put on.
I was like, yeah, you know what? This can be just for me. I'm just going to play, it doesn't have to be in the digital space, And so, yeah. But I can apply that also then to live streaming, Are we doing this to become a YouTube star? No. Are we doing this to get, 100,000 subscribers? No. Do we want to grow our audience? Of course. Do we want to have professional standards as far as our performance? Of course. But at its primary core, what are we doing this for? It is to connect. It's to connect with the people who find some value or some joy in the work that we do. Whether it's a fun cover song that brings a smile to their face, or a warm feeling in the pit of their stomach, or if it's an original song that they appreciate, that they know they can only get from you, V. That's why we do it. That is the authentic core of it. Do that. Hold that as your North Star. Do it in a healthy way. Resist comparison. Because you read enough industry blogs, and you have enough peers and colleagues doing it in their way, and that's right for them. But don't turn this into yet another unhealthy, striving, maladaptive behavior for yourself, because then you're on that hamster wheel, and you're not steering your journey. Your journey is your own. I don't know, for me, is just realizing that our time is finite. Whatever you metaphysically believe, if there is a hereafter or whatever, let the hereafter be the hereafter. But for our time on Earth, it's finite before we return to stardust, ashes to ashes. So what are you going to do? What is your purpose? Because each of us has the stories only we can tell, and the stories only we can share, right? And whether that's in your job, your day job, whether that's in your hobby, whether that's in the conversations that you have. What are we doing that is stitching in beautiful threads into this tapestry of human existence? um, I feel and will remain forever blessed that I had the opportunity to articulate my family's story. you know um those threads are there, and whether the butcher son blows up and becomes a famous IP or whatever, it exists now. And my dad's story, my mom's story, my sister's story, my story, will outlive me. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But I think all of us creatives, and even those who don't think that they're creatives, we have that opportunity. We have that opportunity in the interactions we have every day. What fabric are we working with? What threads are we working with? How can we stitch something beautiful together? That's what'll last and outlast us. And that's how you can proceed without regret, and that's how you can proceed with a sense of peace and a sense of optimism, really, because that's something that we all need right now. I remember once my mom was visiting after I had written The Butcher's Son and after she had watched it. And I was in final rehearsals for a play at the Unicorn Theater. And at the same time, I had the honor of presenting a TED Talk at TEDx Wyandotte. And she was tagging along just because we wanted to maximize her visit. And so she went with me to the tech rehearsal for the TED Talk. And then I rushed her home before going to the tech rehearsal for the play I was in. And as I was dropping her off, she stopped me and she was like, hey, slow down a minute. I don't know what that was that we just went to, which was the TED Talk tech rehearsal. But I could kind of, because she didn't know what a TED Talk is. But she was like, I could kind of tell it was a big deal, but I could also tell you weren't there. You were already at the next thing, And I don't know why you're doing this way, but if it's because of me, I'm telling you, you don't have to prove anything to me anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, and it stopped me in my tracks, because I was unconsciously carrying that 10,000 ton weight of legacy burden of my parents sacrificed so much. They didn't force me to go to law school or med school. They didn't force me. They allowed me to choose this path. And then despite that, I turned it into this unhealthy striving, right? Where I was missing my own TED Talk, right? So Mama Tran swooped in and she took that weight off of me and she said, don't miss your TED Talk. Don't miss your TED Talk, And then she followed up. Yeah, what a great woman. I get my storytelling from her, but she was like, because look, you wrote our family story. You've done all of this. You achieved what you set out to do, which is be an artist, right? But if you're going to be this miserable doing it, then you should have gone to law school or med school. So you chose this, now do it. Now do it right and enjoy it, because if you're not going to enjoy it, then I'm going to take backsies. I'm going to take backsies and be like, okay, then go to law school, Because if you're going to be miserable doing something, you might as well have some financial security doing it, No, but we laugh about it. And look, it's not about profession. For all my doctors and lawyers out there, love you, admire you. It is about, being content with the choices that you make. But to your question of like, you know, what can folks take away, is like, nothing is wasted if you can find the lesson, right? You know, it's like, you can lose, but don't lose the lesson. That whole funny saying, but it's really, really true, because like, I think about, and you can apply this to your artistic practice, or you can just apply this to kind of your daily way of going about your life. But it's like, I could look back and think, oh my God, I have so many CDs, and remember all the time that I spent organizing my CDs and alphabetizing them and putting separating them by genre. And what a waste. Now they're just in the attic. And then flash forward all the time that I spent curating playlists on my iPod, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and it's like, oh, all that time was wasted. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Because it was what you needed at that point in time, and it brought you joy, you know? And I look back at the kid version of myself, the kid that played video games by himself or read books by himself. That's tracked. That's part of my practice now, right? In the wellness workshop that experience that we had together, you know? You see how I've taken that and gamified my wellness practice, you know, my storytelling practice, because all of that, all of the stuff that brings us joy, all of the work that we've done, if we choose to have a healthy perspective about it, we don't have to regret it. You know, it wasn't time wasted. It was time that gave us more health points. You know, it was time that leveled us up with our magic powers, you know? Right? Because that's where the alchemy happens, right? As an artist, is like, you have your skill set, you have your technical skill set, and then you have to imbue that with the alchemy of the magic, right? Whether that's the storytelling, whether that's whatever your unique voice is, right? And where do you get that magic power? Your lived experience and the joy, and the loss and the reconciliation of your relationship with grief, you know? That's not in a pentatonic scale, right? That's in the core of you that is humanity. So how do you take the math and the English and meld them together, you know, to fuse them together, and make something that hopefully resonates with others. And if for no other reason, if no one else ever hears it, if it doesn't leave the sacred space of the creative space, the rehearsal space, it was made for you. Because you should be writing songs that you want to listen to, right?
Absolutely.
If you're not writing songs that you want to listen to, you might want to reevaluate that. But yeah, if there's anything I want to send out to all y'all watching today is go easy. Go easy on yourselves. The circumstances are challenging enough. And we're only going to get through this if we're good to ourselves. And we can then, in taking care of ourselves, be able to take care of each other and lift each other up and see each other through to the other side. In the meantime, keep creating, keep sharing your stories, in whichever ways that you can, whichever ways that are comfortable and safe for you to do so. Yeah, and continue to connect. And, you know, just if you're interested in having a dialogue, or interested in learning more about me, then check out my socials and check out my YouTube. I'm sure Heartland Song Network can lead you in the right direction with all of that. But thank you for the opportunity to share my story, and I can't wait to hear your stories moving forward.
Shouldn't this be easy? Why can't two honest people just be? But I seem